Someone created a completely new operating system for large language models, which can effectively run code, do tasks, and automate your day-to-day work directly inside of your computer. So you can see I have this running locally. Now it's a bit messy because I tried to stop it. When I clear this, and if I run this, effectively the interpreter can take in, or O1 Lite can take in my voice inputs. Let me show you what is the interpreter about. So you can see I pressed the spacebar in order to start the recording. It recorded my voice. Now it's going to convert that into text here. So what is this? What is the interpreter about? And then it's going to respond. The interpreter is a specialized language model that operates. I'm assuming you can
Complete tasks, manage your to-do list, and offer guidance and support during the process. It can schedule reminders for tasks, run code, and even control certain aspects of the user interface. The goal is to make you as efficient.
Again, it's kind of slow, so I'm going to stop it, but I'm going to show you how you can set this up locally. But before that, let's watch the video by the team who created this. So let me run this.
For over 100 years, humanity has imagined a computer that's as easy to interact with as a person. ChatGPT introduced the world to this technology and became the fastest growing consumer application of all time. Now, corporations around the world have started building closed source, artificially intelligent devices. 6 weeks ago, we realized there was an opportunity to build an open source foundation, this next generation of computers, the Linux of this space, something open, flexible, and free, an operating system with a language model at the center. I'm holding the first device powered by this operating system in my hand right now. It's called the O1.
So let me forward this a bit for you.
The O1 Lite, the first open source language model computer. You talk to it like a person, and it operates a computer to help you get things done. You can run the language model on your computer at home or in our server in the cloud, making the O1 Lite fully portable when connected to Wi-Fi or a hotspot. To use it, you just push, talk, and then it thinks and responds. Let me show you what it can do. When's the next sunny day?
One moment. The next sunny day is on March 9th.
Great. Am I doing anything on that day?
Let me check your calendar. You have no events scheduled for March 9th.
So because the O1 is operating my personal computer at home, I didn't need to set up my calendar. It can just use it. Nice. Can you see if there are any concerts in Seattle on that day?
Yes, you have several options. Option 1, Bad Bunny will be performing at the Climate Pledge Arena.
That's perfect. Can you add that to my calendar and then copy and paste a link to the ticket into the calendar event? And then actually, if you could text Paige the link and say something like, hey, do you want to go to this?
Done. The concert is on your calendar and Paige has been texted.
Awesome, thanks.
You're welcome. By the way, you've just received an email from Mike asking about your progress on an article. Would you like to respond to it now?
So I need to send that file to Mike, but it's on my computer at home. Hey, that article should be on my desktop. It's called the Universal Interface.
There's a file titled the universalinterface.pdf on your desktop. Do you want me to send it to Mike?
Now, at this point, I could ask my Lite to read or even edit that document, but I'm just going to send it to Mike. Yes, please send it.
The document has been emailed to Mike.
Great. So you can kind of think of the O1 Lite as like a smart...
So I'm guessing by this point you understand what the model does, and you can understand why this is going to be crazy. It's similar to the Rabbit 1 R1 or Rabbit R1. So let me open this. Effectively, this is like a pocket companion that can actually see what you're doing and lets you kind of talk to the companion itself in order to keep a track of what you do. It's almost like your personal assistant, right? Now, the OpenInterpreter is similar, just that it's open source. You can see it's similar to Rabbit R1, Humane Pin, or Star Trek Computer, which is kind of a very funny yet accurate reference here. And it can do everything that you would do typically on your computer, right? So it can basically, if you connect it with your own computer and you tell it to do things like send email or open WhatsApp and message someone, all of these things it's able to do automatically. Now, obviously, it needs access to a bunch of things on your terminal or computer in order to run it. But it's super simple to install. You can see there is a repository here that says OpenInterpreter 01, and you can actually go ahead and open this. They have very simple steps in order to run this, right? So the first thing you will need on your computer in order to run this is Python. So go to Google, type download Python and install it here. Now, once you install this, I think everything else is taken care by them, right? So this is exactly what you need. So the first thing you need to do is clone the software. And again, like I said, this is just the software we're working on, right? We're not looking at hardware right now. So let's look at the software installation only in this scenario, but you can also build the hardware if you're interested, right? So there's the guide on how you can build it. I think build instructions are here. You can open it, and I think you can also connect. You should be able to connect this with mobile devices too in some capacity. Anyway, so for now, let's just focus on the software part where you go to the Git repository and clone this, right? So once you install Python, you will also need Git in order to interact with the GitHub repositories here. You will also have to log into GitHub because you will be cloning all of these things locally, right? So once you download it for your operating system, you download Python. When you first download Git, you will be prompted to log in. Go ahead and log in and then start running this locally. The first thing is we'll clone this, right? And in order to clone this, if you're on Mac, just open terminal. I'm going to be clearing this and then type git clone the repository. I already have this cloned, so I'm going to abort it, right? Because I already have this locally set up, and then go inside of the folder that's cloned it, right? So when you clone this, what happens is all of this code is now replicated inside of your computer. So if you open Finder, and then if I go inside 01, you can see everything that I cloned is available here. You can go inside of the software because that's what we are running right now. So again, you don't need to directly work on this folder, but just in case if you're curious where the code went once you cloned it. Now what we'll do is we'll go inside of the folder where software is available. So I'm going to be going 2 steps back. This is where you probably cloned the Git repository. Now you need to say cd 01, which will go inside 01 folder. And if you do cd software, it will go inside of software folder. Before you git clone, by the way, you need to ensure that you select the directory where you're going to be cloning this. So if you're cloning it inside your main folder, or if you want to clone it in some other folder, you need to do cd and the name of the folder where you want to clone it. Or you can also put in a path, let's say software. This will basically take us to the software path inside of 01. And if you want to go back, then you do double dots, this will go to 01. And if you do double dots again, it will go to code. So let's go back to 01 and then let's go to software because that's where we want to run all of this. You can see they also have this instruction here. So you can just directly after you clone it, type this and you will automatically go inside software. Now you need to install a bunch of things because you will be giving access of your computer to the model. You need to install all of these things. I've already installed this, but go ahead and do brew install port audio fmpg and cmake. Now note that this is going to install this across your Mac and not limited to the project, right? So you can see the installation is done, and this is for Mac, by the way, and I don't think there are instructions for Windows here. As of right now, it only shows things for Mac. Next, you need to install Poetry install. This will basically install all the libraries that this project uses. So if you go inside of, there should be a requirements.txt. Let me see if I can find it. So if you go inside of software, you should be able to see everything this has. Or there is the Poetry file. If you go inside of this, this will list down a bunch of things that will be needed in order to run this. So what we will need to do is first install Poetry, which will install these libraries, right? So do pip install Poetry, which will again install Poetry in your computer. And then post that, you can run the instruction that's given here. Let's say Poetry install in order to install dependencies. You can see already whatever I need is already installed. So it's not going to install for me, but it is going to install it for you if you're doing this for the first time. Next, we need to set up the OpenAI API key, and note that this is going to cost you money, right? Because this is using your own OpenAI API key. So in order to get it, just go to API keys and then here, create a new key. You can see I have created one here. Once you do create, name the key and then create it. And once you do that, it should be able to create a key and you can paste it instead of an SK here. Once you paste that, let me demo it for you. So I'm going to be deleting the old key, create a new key and call it OpenInterpreter 01. And then you're going to paste it here. And once this is done, now one thing I've noticed that every time you run terminal from scratch, it's going to ask for that key again. Now, also once you, let me just show you instead, right? So we've added the key. Now let's go back and run the final thing. And this is the important part. So once you run this, this should show you a bunch of prompts with respect to settings you need to do. So you will probably need 3 things, at least in my scenario it did. You will need microphone settings. So terminal, you need to enable microphone for terminal. Then you need to enable the, I think, accessibility settings for terminal. Then you also need to enable the input monitoring settings for terminal, because all of these requirements are needed in order to run this in the first place. Once you grant these permissions, you will see it's running on this server. Now, basically, this is a software. So I'm going to be pressing spacebar and I'm going to be talking. But if this was, say, a server, then you can also set up a device that can accept your voice inputs and give you responses. So I hope you reach this point and without a bunch of errors, and this would indicate that you've successfully installed this locally and you can run this. Now, in order to remove this, you should be able to do Poetry uninstall once you're done using it, or you don't plan to use this in future. But in either case, let's try it now. So let's say, what am I looking at right now? And this is going to be taking my input. First, it recorded the audio, and then it's feeding it to FMMPG or any bunch of these libraries.
Let's check.
You can see it's asking for another permission, and it's looking at the main image. So let me just open the settings and enable the terminal to also see my screen, right? So it's important that you need to enable a bunch of these settings, and I'm going to be quitting and reopening this. So we terminate this. Again, you will have to set your OpenAI API key and do Poetry run 01. Now it has access to also see what we are looking at the screen. So once it runs, I'm going to be asking the exact same question. It will take a screenshot and then tell me what am I looking at right now. So you can see it was able to understand what I said in the audio prompt, and now it's running. And now it's kind of, I think, taking a screenshot of whatever I'm looking at.
Let's find out.
So it's looking at the display view and it took the screenshot correctly, right? Now it should be able to make a sense of what I am doing. So let me go back to terminal, and then it failed. So it was able to get the image. So it failed for some reason. Maybe it didn't interpret the image correctly. But let's try something else. Can you open my Discord group? It says the message is too big. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to restart the Poetry. Again, it's an open source model and there is probably a bunch of back and forth going on. But let me just try and see if I can run this now. If I start from scratch. Can you open the activity monitor? I don't think it has the access to open the applications at this point of time, but let's see if it's able to do that.
Sure, let me open that for you.
Yeah, there you go. So it's going to also tell you to, yeah, there you go. So it's able to access and open the activity monitor automatically, right?
The activity monitor should now be open on your computer.
Fantastic. I mean, that's one first thing that worked really well. What's the weather like today around my area? So it should also ask for, I think, location access. And let's see if that's the case.
Sure, let me check that for you.
So it's now going to open the browser. I don't know if it has access to my browser, but let's see if it's able to do it.
Based on the available results, it seems the current weather in your area is around 41 degrees Fahrenheit during the afternoon. Feels like temperature is around 31 degrees Fahrenheit. The wind speed is about 6 miles per hour along with 36% humidity levels. No significant precipitation has been mentioned. As these conditions can change quickly, it's always best to check for the most recent updates before making any weather-dependent plans.
So it kind of just stopped executing this, and I'm going to be running my next command in the meantime. How many calories are there in an apple? Similar to one of the use cases of Rabbit R1, checking if that's something that it can also understand. Interesting. It was able to respond.
One medium apple approximately contains 95 calories. Is there anything else you need?
How far is the nearest airport from my location?
Let me check that for you.
So it seems like it's programmatically opening the browser. And unfortunately, I don't think it has the location access, so it's not getting it correctly. I'm based in Mumbai, but it's, I think, looking at...
To get the distance to the closest airport, I need your exact location. Could you please provide that?
I'm based in...
Please provide more information.
So it's again slow based. I don't know if that's my...
Thank you for the information. Let me find the nearest airport for you. The nearest major airport to Mumbai is the Chhatrapati Shivaji International Airport, which is about 16 kilometers away. If you need directions or further assistance, let me know.
So interesting. It was able to get my location and, give me more understanding with respect to where the airport is. Now it can also kind of take that as an input, or maybe we can set up something in the backend. Let's try one more thing, right? So let's try if we can get the number of or the list of PDF files from my desktop. Can you give me a list of all the PDF files from my desktop?
Sure, let's retrieve that list for you.
It's running a bunch of things, but it's not able to get these files. I saw it run some code, I think. And
I'm sorry, but there seems to have been an error in getting the list of PDF files from your desktop. Let's try again. It seems there was a mistake. Let's try again.
Yeah, failed again. So I'm going to stop it at this point because I don't want it to run this endlessly. But I think you get the point with respect to what this does and the potential it brings. I personally think this is a great open source replacement of Rabbit R1, which I think is something around $200. And if you can connect this with your mobile and such that you can interact with the server that you set up on your computer, this is going to be huge that way. It's almost going to unlock personal assistance for a lot of us. Going to be dropping a star in here because I love this. And I hope you guys are able to try it out locally as well. Again, it's going to install a bunch of things in your computer, so be a little careful if you don't know how to remove these things. To quickly give you an understanding of how you can remove this. So you install this by doing brew install this, right? So in order to uninstall this, what you can do is type brew. Instead of saying install, it should say uninstall. I don't know why the cursor is not here, but you can basically say uninstall and remove this. And same for poetry. I think poetry uninstall should work. Let me look it up. Yeah, I think it should be poetry remove, right? And you can just do poetry remove instead of poetry install, and you can install everything that you install with this. Let me go to the right and clear the full thing and then restart this. So ensure that if you're not going to be using this extensively, just delete the key in order to avoid misuse. But yeah, this is a pretty cool project, and I'm very excited for it, to be honest. Like this holds the real potential. Even if I'm able to set this up like on a cloud, and then I'm able to use like a device where I can just press and listen to something, which is something we saw in the demo. This is a huge thing and almost like a independent operating system that works on top of your operating system, right? So really, really cool, guys. And I'm excited to see what happens next. I'm going to be following this and making more content on this. So if you're interested, you know where you can find more content about this, right? All right, guys, see you in the next one.